Right, take two. We're gonna make sure everything's doing what it should be doing. Because I want to make sure to take my time on this one so that no one. Okay, now we got sound going. All right, take my time on this one because I want to make sure that all heads are put to bed and there are no more doubts about certain things. Before I get started, I wanted to say a shout out to Chief Netcher. I did catch your live stream the other night in the wee hours, and understanding why there's been such a, I don't even say a divide because it's not a divide. It's just groups of those that are showing who they are. And once you know who they are, if they tell you who they are, then let them be who they are. So what's been happening was, as he was saying before, and I hope he gets a chance to look at this, to hear, when you mention as a man things that will be done in private. So a lot of things that have been done in private, shots were being taken publicly. And so those of us that were handling the situations in private had to address it, especially when names started being called. So a lot of the things that have been happening that you're seeing spill over live the last few months, the last few weeks, have been because situations have tried to be handled in private and people wanted to make it public. And the reason why I didn't want to make it public was because it was going to distract from the movement. And like you said earlier, brother, in your live stream a couple of days ago, you didn't know any of this was going on. There were several of those that were in the chat that knew what was going on and are refusing to stand up for what is right. So for those of us that are standing up for what is right, uh, we are being ostracized and alienated and called everything but a child of God. But if you notice, it's one side that's always yelling, cussing and fussing, and never wanting to sit down and have a healthy dialogue and have an exchange of what's going on. They ask rhetorical questions because obviously they know the answers. They cut you off and don't say anything. So I wanted to, like I say, address some of those things that were done in private and done offline that should have been handled differently. And for my part in it, I apologize. But if you notice, during those live streams, I tried to keep as calm as calm as possible. And the amazing thing is that when things were discussed offline, we were asked to come on the panel. See, that's the deal. When it's a difference between when the link is out there in the chat and you just click on it and get in. But if you go back and look at those videos, I know a few of those videos they took down. But if you go back and look at those videos, you will see that that when I came on was after my name was called, and then they said, okay, let's get in the chat. So I didn't have a problem with that. But my deal was, as long as my name wasn't called, I was fine. You can say whatever you wanted to say. No problem whatsoever. But when you call my name and then you expect me not to respond, then that causes an issue. I'm not certain why, but hey, it causes an issue. So what we're gonna do is here, I'm gonna go get straight to the point and start knuckling down here. I'll give people enough time to get in so they can share. But I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to at least come in before I started commenting or saying anything. Because I always want to give people an opportunity to uh, share their views and get what's going on with them off their chest. So I know that some people are frustrated on what's been going on, and as am I. but I want to give enough people, I want to give the people enough time to actually come in and address the situation because I want them to be able to really take in what's going on. So that's the most important thing. Um, at the moment, I am trying to make sure that those that are in are in. I know there are a few watching it probably that will never comment. But greetings, Cop. Glad you unmuted yourself, Brother Copper Indio. The Grudge. And greetings, says your love X. And greetings. I wanna do this. I wanna make sure that greetings, Brother Copper. Color K, aka Special K. Greetings, brother. No sellout. I want to make sure that because I don't want anyone to say that they couldn't see anything. Although this is primarily what you'll be seeing. Uh, who's on the screen is my great aunt. That is my mother's aunt. So that is actually my mother's mother's sister-in-law. So she was married to my great grandmother. So that's just the picture that you're seeing. So some of the things that have been passed down through tradition that my grandmother was taught was passed down and taught by my great uncle, uh, his father, and my great uncle's wife, like I say, as well as my great grandmother. So we're gonna get right in, and we're gonna go to our regular scheduled program. Apologize for last night. I had it set, but again, there were some people that were popping firecrackers, so I did not want to try to do a live and people were popping firecrackers. I don't know why, because again, we're still a little bit from the 4th. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break some things down, and then after the live stream, I'm actually going to put the links in the description box. But we're going to break down because we've been hearing over and over and over and over and over about we didn't call ourselves Indian. We never called ourselves Indian. So before I get into that, I'm going to give you a little bit of history because we've been hearing from some people, and I'm going to keep it cordial, from Aboriginal Power, because I was last on his panel, and others that have been saying that the pyramids in the Americas are older than the pyramids in Egypt. And the example that they use is Corral Supe. Not a problem. They're off of Peru, not South America. Not a problem. So if we're going with that, and this is Aboriginal Powers quote. He's been saying this for years. It's not something that he started saying yesterday. He's been saying this for years. They've been saying that the pyramids in the Americas are older than the pyramids in Egypt. With that being said, and when you say we built them, we built them. So then we have to go back to who is the we, because you can't generalize and put everybody into a category. And here's what's happening. The divide, which is not a divide, you have a group that's saying that we're aboriginal to the whole planet, that everywhere we walk, that when mama passes away and dust gets in your eye, that dust is your granny. So everywhere the dust spreads all over the planet, everywhere the smoke settles all over the planet belongs to us. So now, since we've had this Sahara dust storm blow through, and there's dust all over the United States and all in the Caribbean, so West Africans, Sub-Saharan Africans say that now they can stay clean to the United States because the dust of their ancestors just blew over here and still blowing over here. What's the logic in that? I don't know. Somebody help me understand because I really want to know. So we're going to break down this word that someone said that he dissected a few yesterday. Well, day before yesterday, like I said, I couldn't respond due to the firecrackers. I don't give all of my information all at once because I've been noticing that used to go on panels with people years ago, and then all of a sudden, that live stream, or AKA build as they call it, disappears. And then they come back quoting the same information and swear up and down. They don't know me, never heard of me, don't know anything about it. It's amazing to me. And not to brag on myself, but I heard even the other day someone was talking about the Uli. Last time I checked, no one was saying anything about the Uli or the Alabama until the Cab Grand Rising show. And I'll put those links later on in the description box as well. Somebody's lying somewhere because I know we were talking about the Uli, the Alabama, and that was well over a year ago. Now, all of a sudden, now I hear people talking about it, but they swear up and down they don't know anything about the Cab Grand Rising show. Oh, man. It's amazing to me. So we're going to get into this auntie that someone had described and said it just means east. On the surface, hey, that dude is correct. He can put his hands, he can take his hands high, he can put it in the middle of the sky, he can put it in the middle of his back and give himself 4 or 5 taps. On that, he is correct, but east runs so much deeper than that. So we're going to get into Auntie Suyu. Like I say, I put these words in the chat before, but I'm gonna put it again because I want people to get it. I don't want it to be lost in the sauce. Auntie Suyu. Auntie Suyu describes the people that when the Spanish came / Portuguese, because they're all the same people, don't let them fool you, came to that region and they asked the people trying to communicate who they were. They told them Auntie Suyu. Auntie. That is translated in Spanish to this word, Andes. Andes is literally a transliteration of auntie. Same thing. Well, you had the Andes, they say Andes mountains today, and it converts to Indian. Don't take my word for it. Let's still go at it. Now, there were 4 people. Those that have heard me say this before. There were 4 people where they talk about the 4 cardinal points, the 4 quadrants, the 4 corners. The 4 corners were called Tuwa Auntie Suyu. Now, based upon this individual saying that auntie just means east, then how is it? Let's read it. If it's Tuwa Auntie Suyu, the Tuwa, T-A-W-A, Tuwa, means 4, the number 4, in Quechua, which you also will hear pronounced Quiche. So I'm going to put Quechua in the chat. So that way you can look these things up for yourself. But like I say, I'm going to put the links in there in the description box when the video is over so you can go back and look at it. Quechua. Quechua was the language being spoken by the Incas when those from the Iberian Peninsula arrived to that region, to the Andes region, to the Antilles region. Now, when the Spanish arrived, the Incas told the Spanish, aka and slash Portuguese, told them that their language came from a more ancient people, people that were there before the Incas. And when you realize you do your research on the Incas didn't rule that region until just before, about 100 years before the Spanish arrived. If you look at the Inca, what they call the Inca ruins or the Inca temples, you'll find out that there are stones stacked up on stones, just like the cobblestones when you go to Croatia today. They took the rubbles of all the other existing buildings and used them to rebuild those buildings and the roads. That's the same thing the Incas did, because the Incas told you, hey, we didn't build this. Notice how we keep coming across people and they're saying, just like the same thing on the Cab Grand Rising show. About a year ago, we had, matter of fact, it may have been over a year ago, we're having that discussion about the Mexicans. And when they were exploring the Mexicans, and they said, the Mexicans said, hey, we didn't build this. Perhaps the Toltecs built this, which leads you back to the Aztecas. And the Aztecas said, hey, we didn't build this. This gets back to the ones you call the Olmecs or the She people. The Ulis. We didn't build this. So you're accrediting the Mexican civilization and all of their great edifices to us, but we didn't build it. And then they talk to the Aztecas, and the Aztecas are saying, hey, a more ancient people than us build it. And the people they were referring to, that when you go to Mesoamerica and actually talk, or even in the South America, and you talk to the Dons, you talk to the Chiclera or Chiclera, you talk to the wise ones, you talk to the elders, they would call it pre-Maya. Pre-Maya. So they're saying the time even before the Maya, because the Mayas even say, hey, we can't take credit for this. This goes way before the Maya. So we'll call it, so when you're reading the books, it'll list them as pre-Maya. Because they said, oh, there was no account of civilization or any of this, and we don't know where the Olmec heads came from and all the rest of that. And it's amazing to me that nobody, out of a sudden, out of nowhere, they start doing Olmec heads. So again, as I said, and again, if you talk to Elder, or what they call him, the Don Rodriguez, and if you go to some of my videos, you'll hear him talking before. Like I say, he's a Maya historian. And he tells you about who these people are. Who these people are. And that the pre-Maya, he said, we're here for thousands of years, millions of years. You can't really hear it because I think somebody trying to be Kenny G playing the saxophone and the flute in the background. So you couldn't hear on the video. So I put the words up of what he said when he talked about the one that's called the Garifunu, or the Garanagu today. Said they were here millions of years. It wasn't anything dealing with any African slave trade. I other put videos on it that are in Spanish, but I have the English subtitles on there that tell you when they start talking about the Negros and them being the Diablos, and saying where these bearded Diablos, where they come from, Dance of the Diablos and all the rest of that, and the Dance of the Dead. And they say, well, where did it come? None of them say Africa. None of them say Africa. They say from over here is where it came from. Tap dancing, the ham bone, where you're doing your hand on the chest and all this stuff, making it, all that came from over here. But that's another subject for another time. Yes, sir. They don't even know about that. They don't know about the book. That's why I said it's so much that they don't get into, that they try, when they try to be just Googleologists. And it takes more than you looking up something for 30 minutes. And then you decide, hey, I want to do it live because I saw something in 30 minutes. So I'm going to try to debunk this person. And they don't want to have, and like I say, I'll give some material, but enough for them to study. And they don't want to have a debate, because this is something when everybody's like, oh, you want that smoke? You want that smoke? You want that? And every time it comes up, people disappear when I bring up the word Indian. when I bring up the word Indian, they don't want to talk about that. Yes, sir. Like I said, Brother Cobb and Brother David Corey, they have found artifacts from the people that predate the Maya here in Texas, in the hill country. Oh, snap. But I digress. the Twa Ante Suyu, now based upon their knowledge dealing with Quechua or Quiche, they're saying that it means 4 east. That don't even make sense. That makes absolutely no sense. But we can deal with the, and like I say, I'll give you the 4. That is the Chinca Suyu, which you will find in the Northwest region. Like I said, I'll put the link in there. And the Quincha, that they were, again, were the Northwest section of what is now known as Colombia. That was one part. And of course, I mentioned the Anti-Suyu, which you'll find they were in the Northeast region. The Kunti Suyu were in the Southwest region, which went out toward the Pacific Ocean in South America. And the Kuya Suyu, the Kuya or Koya Suyu, which goes to the shores of Lake Titicaca. We can talk about that a little bit. Like I say, I'm going to take my time because I may have to come back a little bit later and do this, or even do it tomorrow, because I want to make sure that I take this slow so they can dissect it and understand. So anyone that's in the chat, if you look up auntie and you say auntie and you put in Quechua or Quechua or Quichemaya, or better yet, put in Andes, type in Andes in your search, look at several definitions, and it'll tell you that it came from the Quechua language. And then they tell you the Quechua language is at least 4,600, but it's older than that. Let's just do a nice round number to 5,000. At least 5,000 years old. And these people called themselves Auntie, which the Spanish translated to Andes. So I was told to take my time, preacher. I'm going to take my time. So let's just pull up, since he's trying to use all this. Let me pull up his sources that he was pulling up. One was the Encyclopedia Britannica. When you look up Andean, those are that Andean, Indian, Andean. Let me type it in the chat for you. Andean peoples. Andean peoples. In the Encyclopedia Britannica. And I'm glad that it's online, because we used to get Encyclopedia Britannicas. My grandmother used to order a set from the man. He'd come by there, and I think it was like the $2.50 a month or whatever she'd pay. And they would tell you that it is Andean peoples, Aboriginal inhabitants of the area of Central Andes in South America. Now, who put that in? I'm going to put his name in the chat. It said, written by John V. Murrah. And he's the president, Institute of the Andean Research, New York City, emeritus professor of anthropology, Cornell University, Ithaca, New York, author of Economic Organizations and the Inca State and others. Okay, I just wanted to share that part right quick, because again, some people are still asleep and don't understand the significance of what they do and how they do. Yes, sir, Brother David Corey. Those The Encyclopedia Britannicas were blue. Yes, sir. You just have to read them the things that were done every Saturday. Get up, had to clean up, and my mother, my grandmother were in there cooking. Then after that, we'd eat, sit down. We had to crack open those Encyclopedia Britannicas, but my mother was playing the piano and my grandmother was going over lessons with us. I guess that's the plus side of having a mother that was a teacher, a grandmother that was an English professor. So anyway, uh, the landscape of the Inca Empire. I'm gonna put that link in there too. This is you'll find this on American Indian .si.edu. And let me put that in there. I'm gonna do this for you. American Indian .si.edu. And it's a whole lot of backslashes, but then after that, you can just put in Auntie Suyu. Yes, sir, but there we go. After we made up that bed, we couldn't go outside, couldn't do any of that. House had to be squared away. And it says here about the landscape. It said, located on the upper Amazon, the Auntie Suyu had a rainforest environment marked by heavy rainfall, high humidity, and lush vegetation. It offered many natural resources such as coca, medicinal plants. I talked about that before, where the actual cure and for malaria, and to make sure you didn't get it, a natural vaccine for malaria. We talked about that before. In that same area in South America, you can literally take the bark off the tree and eat it. It tastes bitter, but the mosquitoes will leave you alone because we know mosquitoes is what transfers malaria from person to person. It's instigated by mosquitoes. Talked about before. They talk bad about the Arawak, aka the Micmac, and which was in North America, coming down south, because we know about the Arawak that were coming down and blended in. And so I said, oh, this group took over that group took over that group. No, they were all just different sects of the same group that were coming down. Arawak, Carib, Taino was a subgroup of that. So that's another subject for another time. But that they had the cure for smallpox. Look up Micmac and smallpox. They already had the cure for smallpox, a natural cure for smallpox. These people want to keep playing games. They really want to keep playing games. And the Arawak, well, when the French-speaking languages is where you will find the Iroquois. See, these are the same people. But if you don't have any relationship with your grandmama can't tell you certain things if you're not talking to her. Your grandmama may repeat some things. Shout out to No Grandma Killers. Your grandmama may repeat some things over and over, but if you're patient enough, sit down and listen. If you tune out, put your phone down and record her talking, because she's telling you nuggets. But we don't want to listen to grandma anymore because grandma don't know what she's talking about. She talks slow and she says the same thing over and over. And I'm tired and I don't want to deal with it. I got too much to do. Then when grandma's gone, now you crying, slobbering, kicking over the casket, telling me, Lord, why didn't you take me? Granny's gone. And all that wisdom is gone with her because you didn't want to listen. Again, being fortunate enough to sit down with having both of my great grandmothers were still alive. So had the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with my great grandmothers. And it talks about the whole region. And if you notice, like I said, you'll start to see the connection. And I don't want to get in too deep, where it also goes into talking about Machu Picchu. But you can see it for yourself. Yes, sir, Brother David Corey. I definitely, my heart goes out to you. I know you had to go to a home going, but you know how we do. We fall all over the place when Granny's gone. what I talked about before, the Andean people, the Andean Indian people, about the coca leaf, how much we deal with the coca leaf, still deal with the coca leaf and cocoa today. But again, I don't want to go too deep into that because I want to get to dealing with these, the word East, because we're going to break down this auntie that he keeps saying that has nothing related and all it means is East. But you'll start to find the same traditions that have been passed down, and although all those the people that are there now have been blended in with other groups for millennia, they still keep the same traditions and the same customs. Even when it gets down to the feathers in this region of Twa Antisuyu, same area, same region dealing with the feathers. Now, I'm going to go because, again, they say, well, Doodoo Vision, aka James Flames, how do you know these are the same people and how do you put it all together? Well, I go back again because Aboriginal Power stated we built those pyramids in Peru, and that the pyramids in Corral Supe are older than the pyramids in Egypt. And then he goes on and says, we built them. Well, who was the we? And I say that because the other gentleman that was on your panel, whose name I won't mention, who calls himself the greatest, but he stated, hey, we're not all Indians. True, we're not all Indians. Some people have told us that they're not Indians. And all Aborigines are not Indians. Again, because you have Aborigines of Australia, you can call Aborigines of Africa, because people claim to be African, but they're Aborigines to the whole planet. I don't know how that works. So, if you're saying you're not Indian, then you can't stake claim that we built the pyramids. There's no way you can do it. So you can't say we built it when the people in that region are calling themselves Auntie, Andes, Andeans. I was, like I say, transliterated. So you can't say we built the pyramids. Now there's a distinction. See, what people say there's a divide in the community. There is no divide. There is no divide. I'm based upon the things that have been taught from those over there that say, hey, we built the pyramids, but we're not Indians. And we got I see it's a whole lot of scholars in the chat this afternoon. And I'm pretty sure someone has already looked up those words that I just mentioned. Like I say, you can go to that website and break down the medicinal plants and the art and the whole nine. And if you can't find it, let me know. But when you get to that site, just put it in that search. You can't find it, put in Inca Universe, but Inca with a K, where it talks about Cusco. But I want to get to Auntie. Because Auntie deals with these people that recognize their deity, Inti. And I'll put that in the chat. Inti. Which is what they call the Inca sun god. Inti, which same as Auntie, this Incan sun god, as they call it, just recognizing the importance of the sun. You will find this deity with a glowing face or a sun face in a human body. This is what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna break down this. When you talking to grandma, things will make sense. And when you use colloquialisms, you use certain things that people don't understand. In the words of Run DMC, not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good. Because someone could look up bad in the dictionary. And when we used to say back in the 80s and 90s, like, oh man, that's bad. Those shoes are bad. Them Jordans bad. And someone that didn't know, be like, oh man, I didn't know. Are they horrible? Because they don't understand the verbiage. They don't understand our language. So, dealing with Inti, but still Auntie, was an Incan god, right? But I'm going to put in this other name so you can look up both. It's going to lead you back to the same thing. Ampu. Oh, and you're going to see that Ampu again and with an Egyptian deity. Oh my goodness. As I said before about dealing with the four corners. And the wise ones would say, hey, the energy from the heavens came here first in the order. I've given the order before. I won't do it today. I'm sorry. I don't mean to put a tease out there. But there was the order that the people came down in which they started building the pyramids. So now you can know who's who. And they telling you, they've always told you the order. And that order is now what science is finally catching up to what grandma was saying, to what all the elders were saying, to what all the wise ones were saying. Now, science is finally catching up. So I'm going to put this in the chat. So anyone that has studied Egyptian culture, you know about Ampu. You should know it's something about Ampu. So we're going to get back to that maybe at another time, but I also with that hint with that Ampu, you all see the Puntua, where you're going to get to the Punta, the Puni, the Phoenician being the rising bird. Now you're going to start to see some stuff that's going to begin to make some sense. Y'all remember the restaurant El Phoenix? And then you go to Phoenix, Arizona. That rising of the fiery bird that came up out of the ashes that everyone thought was dead. But I'm going to leave that alone. Let me go back to this. That it talks about that representing the flames. And they always like to throw in sister because they want to try to make it seem like it's always incest. But sister in a sense didn't mean that. It just means sense in a relationship that there was no such thing as in-law. If you married someone, your wife's people, there was no such thing as in-law. They're your people, period. Because now you're in the family and then she's in your family and vice versa. But I don't want to get into that. But his wife or consort, because he's representing the sun, is represented by the moon. Mama Kia, or you see also Mama Koya, as I talked about earlier. That was one of the Twa Antisuyu. Is the Koya people. So now you're getting Auntie, the sun, and then you're getting the Koya people or the Kilya people, and I put that in there, Mama Kilya. You can look this up for yourself. Mama Kilya or Koya. Or sometimes you'll see it without the Y. But now you're seeing those that are the elders of the elders. These two groups, the Auntie. That's why I'm dealing with Auntie Suyu, because you put all of them together. The Auntie, and the Koya. So now you got the daddy and the mama people. I hope everybody still follow me. Please put a one if you can still hear me, because I want to make sure that I don't lose anyone today. I'm taking my time and I'm going slow today. You will find out that the Inti or Auntie deals with gold. And Mama Kilia or Koya or Kilia is represented by silver. So you know who's who. Oh, snap. I did a presentation a few weeks ago about those that were in Mesoamerica when they were digging up and going into graves, grave robbers, grave diggers, and showed you the wedding ceremony that was taking place. And those figures had the disc in their chest. Y'all remember that? Then I showed you that that disc goes back again to the Caribbean and then the Mississippi. And I even gave the book and had the book as a thumbnail. And we were going through, watch the video again. When I sorry, I don't recall the gentleman's name, but he was trying to break down the whole ceremony, and we played it through, and I broke it down. They didn't know what they were watching. They were watching a wedding ceremony and didn't realize what it was, and then said, oh, this took place thousands of years before someone painted on the wall, which that painting was thousands of years before they even found it. So I'm taking my time because I know I've been spending a lot of time, especially in the last year and some change, kind of clowning. Not to make an excuse, but I learned this early on, watching my grandmother interact, watching my uncles interact, watching my relatives interact, especially a lot of those, like I said, that were teaching. Like I said, my grandmother was a college professor. My mother was a teacher. And watching the different styles on how they communicate effectively. It said when you are a public speaker, no matter how intelligent you are, if you can't connect to your audience, it's for naught. So I've spent a year and some change clowning, no excuse, but I've been dealing with clowns. You can't speak to people on an intellectual level if they don't have the mental capacity to handle it. So with that, I apologize. I apologize to those that came to actually get some scholarship and some knowledge. That I had to lower myself to deal with those that were coming at me. So I sincerely apologize from the bottom of my heart for those that have been reaching out and saying, you know what, James Flames, Doodle Vision, man, I used to listen to you. Like I say, shout out again to Chief Netcher when he was saying, hey, man, I used to listen to him, watch some videos, get some knowledge. He's saying something, makes sense. I go and do research, come back, what he said is factual. Let me start building up on this. I apologize to those out there that stopped listening. And the part that I played for tuning people off. But it gets to a point in time when you continuously are attacked. And like I say, things have been coming publicly lately, but these things have been going on privately now for some time. Going on 2 years now, these are things that have been happening privately. So I've had to address these things privately. And then when they started sneaking, punching, oh, doodle you this and doodle you that, and you lying and your credibility and the whole nine. So when you're coming and you're attacking my credibility, my character, I've got to punch back. So with that, I sincerely apologize because there were some people out there that got lost in the shuffle. And now they've scattered off to the four winds, and I hope they're not trying to get these fraudulent packets. But that's another subject for another time. So, with this Inti auntie dealing with the son. And you'll come to find out again, this is long before the one they call Jesus the Christ. So now I'm going to get into why you start understanding how so many of our people are super religious when it comes to the Abrahamic faiths. Because we already had these things here. Representing the Son, the one you call Jesus the Christ, Jesus the Cristo, that he is the Son, S-U-N. And they flipped it to the S-O-N. We were not worshiping the Son. We understood that the Son is what was triggering to spring forth life from the earth. We knew this. Because in order to have vegetation leads you into agriculture, horticulture, and you cannot have a culture without agriculture or horticulture. Which is why when I went after those Pan-Africanists and they try to tell me that these Native Americans, the ones y'all talking about, Native Americans, they the ones that are here. And then they sent Mexica. They sent Mexicans to come in and say, this is ours. Like, no, this can't be yours. And I can prove that it's not yours. And those that are calling themselves Native Americans, I know we all got lumped in as far as the government now, but we know the distinguishment between American Indians and Native Americans. I'm going back before this was done. Because they were nomadic people. Nomadic people move when the food moves. They don't have time to look up at the stars and coordinate anything. They don't have time to deal with crops and know about seasons. Why? Because they got their teepees and they up and moving. But we're talking about these people that live in stable structures, not teepees and not huts. That already separates the two groups of people. There's no way in the world that you can move hot from place to place to place. There's no stability. We got a lot of people in here in the chat that are also, they're growing their crops. Brother David Corey is one. Brother David Corey, I'm going to ask you something. I know you're probably not ready, but I'm going to put you on the spot while you're in the chat. Do you plant some peppers and then 3 days later you uproot them and put them in something else? 2 days after that, you uproot them and put them in something else? I want to know. Sister Gabrielle Unions in the chat too. Do you just move? Do you just move, uproot your crops from place to place all the time? Will they grow? Do you plant the seed and then dig it up out of the ground and move it somewhere else? Will it grow? I'm gonna keep it rated G for the kids, but he says, blank no. Sister Gabrielle Union says no. Why? Because you can't grow any roots. And a root gets you back to a family tree, which gets you back to genealogy. Don't let the smooth taste fool you. So, same thing, like, who was it? It's Papa was a rolling stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. But when he died, all he left us was alone. You know why? Because Papa wasn't stable. He was a rolling stone. Rolling stone gathers no moss. Y'all remember hearing that before? Huh? You don't look at a stone to see which direction it's been rolling all over the place to see what north is. What do they tell you? The moss grows on the north side of the trees, baby. I don't know if y'all remember. I remember my grandpappy teaching me that. I didn't need a compass. And there was a scene with Samuel L. Jackson. I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of the Marvel movies. I can't remember which one. When they were dealing with the ship They had the little the whole almost the size of a city on the ships, and the ship was doing something, and they said, well, I don't know. It's like which you know, which way is he was trying to get in the direction, and he said, which way is east? He said, you know where the sun rises, right? He said, well, then hang a left. I gotta show that clip, but I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna find which Marvel movie that was with the Avengers when he said that, when he was Nick Fury. You know which way the sun rises, huh? Because the sun is the first. When it rises, it is the dawn. The dawn is a what? The dawning of a new day, start of a new day, the first, the beginning. Thank you, Brother David Corey. Stunt your growth. So, dealing with Auntie, Inti, because the Inca, you always heard me say that. I said out of those, the Incas are the Johnny come latelys. But Incas are a blend with those that came from, I'll talk about that again. They went to Asia and came back. But we'll talk about that at another time. Along with the Indians, the Auntie, because they knew they were cousins, that were still there in that land. Still there in the land. So then you get the Iberians, you get the Dutch and all these other people, and you get which the Dutch includes the Germans, the Belgians, and all that stuff, because I don't want to get people confused with that. The Franks, the whole nine, the Huguenots. So you got and the those that come from Asia. All these are still blending in. But you know what's the crazy thing about it? The people in that region, and that's why I tell you they don't want to talk about blood types anymore. Everybody's gotten away from blood types. Is what they call the Indians, the aunties of that region, their blood type is still 98 to 100% O. That's how I told you, you could tell who's who. That's how I'm able to tell who's who. And when someone told me a few years ago with a Pan-Africanist, and we were having that discussion, and I told him, I said, I know about blood because I was a medic in the Army. Oh man, what do you do? Dude, I know about spinning blood. Anybody that's been in the military, they put your name, rank, serial number, and guess what else they put on there? Your blood type. Huh? So people keep playing, and they're not serious about teaching the people. They want to keep people entertained. And I guess that's why I veered off into the educational field. Wasn't my first choice selection when it came to that. Maybe I'll share that at another time on my journey on how I became an educator. But it was in my blood to do so. But to sit here and you Google something for 30 minutes, have done no research, and then you holler, see how that works? Nah, it doesn't work like that. Like I read how to change my headlights on my car, and now I'm calling myself a certified mechanic because I saw it on YouTube on how to change my headlights or do my oil change. Doesn't work like that. Not at all. So I gave you those so you can see for yourself. So we know about that portion of it, of Inti or Auntie being dealing with the sun. And Mama Kia or Koya deals with the moon. She is silver, he is gold. He's the sun, she's the moon. Now, when you go back and read those part in the collection of books called the Bible, the book of Genesis, the beginning, dealing with your genes and who you are. So he also goes and he talks about dealing with the East. Now we're going to get to the East, which I say again, you're dealing with the East. You're also dealing with Ishtar, the goddess Ishtar. So I'm going to put Ishtar, which is also your Isis. Let me put that name in there. So Ishtar, the goddess Ishtar, when you look up, it deals with her and her saying from the east, the people of dealing with the east. In Ishtar, you'll find out her relationship with this. Eggs, where we get Easter eggs. Why it doesn't all make sense? Because again, the woman, the female, has what? When that female is born, she has all of the babies that she's ever going to make inside of her. Men, we do what we do with our sperm. We generate sperm. A female is born with all of the eggs she's going to ever have. That's why I said things will start to make sense. Also, you'll find a relationship to what? The rabbit or the bunny, which is why I say again, one of the fortunate or unfortunate things of being part of the rabbit clan, things that don't make sense to others, make sense to me, because when my people start telling me about who I am and sitting there and listening and doing more research, you'll find out what's going on. And when people start staking and making claims on certain things, because they say Easter and Easter eggs were not introduced into the colonies until the Dutch. Well, these Dutch also include until the Great Divide that happened during the split happened during World War I, and Hitler tried to bring them back together, which brought about World War II, was Poland, Hungary, Austria. Well, if you look up Austria, means people of the East, which is why I tell you again, the people that are in that land had been to this land before. Also, that's the root of Australia, the East. I'm taking it slow so people will understand, because I don't want to lose anybody today. And like I say, I may break it up and come back again to let everyone get a refresher and get a bite to eat for lunch and come back. So now we're dealing with the East. Ishtar. Getting into the same characteristics of Mayat, the feather, and Tahuti, the feather. Remember, you take the feather and weigh the heart on the scale, and Tahuti is taking notes. The people of the feather. Again, I gave you the website when you're dealing with the Incas, and it breaks down again. It talks about these feathers and why the tribes over here were dealing with the feathers. So now we're getting into the East. Let's stay in the East. Who was that? Blase when he says, when the East is in the house, oh my God, danger. When the East is in the house, oh my God, when the East is in the house. So you better ring the alarm. Danger. The East is in the house. So we're going to start breaking down and talking about the East, because they seem to not want to discuss the East outside of the superficial surface. So now we're going to get into this East. And then I'm going to come back to something, and I'm going to come back to an article, which is a summary of several writings talking about Indian. But while that's going on, no, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna go ahead and cheat. I'm gonna give you something. I'm gonna give you something. I'm gonna give you this one. Somebody break that down for me. I put it in the chat. Armor Indian. Armor Indian. So when they say, and they're talking about just look up Armor Indian, long American Indian. Same people dealing with the same thing. Because remember, all of this is called the Americas. But I'm gonna break down something dealing with the American Indian, and even when he try to come and talk about the Indus mountains and all that stuff over there in India, and I can say shout out to Brother Copper Indio, the Grudge, because he broke it down. He's been over there, and we've had this discussion before in the back chat as well as on the Cav Grand Rising show. Shout out again to the Cav Grand Rising show. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. About that area was called Barat. So if it was called Barat and wasn't changed until the British are coming, the British are coming, the British are coming, then in the day of Christopher Columbus, he couldn't have called the people over here Indians thinking he was in India because they didn't call it that. So this is what I want to know. Did Christopher Columbus have a time machine? And he went to the future and said, hey, this land over here that's known as India today is going to be called India. So let me go to this land, right, going west, and I'm going to call them something that they not called until almost 300 years later. Come on, son. You going to buy that, son? I got some land in Southeast Louisiana to sell to your son. I got some pixie dust that just came from West Africa, son. Just landed here. You want this pixie dust that's all over the place? Got my lungs clogged up now. You want some of that West African pixie dust? I got something for you, son. If you're going to believe that. But I'm sorry. I cheated. I went ahead. But let's deal with this East. Let's break down the East, because he didn't bother to give you the other definitions of East. Let me use this source. It talks about east, easterly direction, a cardinal point, i.e., wind blowing from the east. Wind blowing out of the east, facing the east, looking toward the east. The rising of the sun. Then it says Orient, Oriental. Now we're going to get to where the rubber meets the road. Let me give you the definition of Orient. It says late 14th century. The direction east, the part of the horizon where the sun first appears. Also now with the capital O, the eastern regions of the world, eastern countries, originally vaguely meaning the region of the east and the south of Europe, now what is called the Middle East, but also sometimes includes India and Egypt. And we know India and Egypt didn't have those names at that time. Said from the French word east of 11th century and from the Latin Orientum, said the rising of the sun, the east part where the sky rises, originally rising, the present participle of oriri, to rise, Oh, where we get also that we talk about now, we're looking up at the constellations, we get Orion's belt. Oh my goodness. Somewhere in your Bible, in the book of the Amos, it tells you seeking him that created the 7 stars and Orion. If somebody look at that in the collection of books you call the Bible, the book of Amos, not a very long book at all. Orion. So that's why all these ancient people talk about from Orion's belt, coming from Orion's belt, dealing with Orion's belt. The beginning. When somebody on Kill Bill, what her name is Orin Ishii. One of my favorite characters, Lucy Liu. When she Orin Ishii. And she jumped up on that table because somebody had a problem with her being half American and half Japanese. And what did she do? With that sword. And she ran across the table and chopped that dude's head off. I'm not going to repeat what she said, but she said something to the sense of, if anybody has anything to say, now is the time to say it. You're talking about scalping folk. I'm chopping heads off. I'm not scalping anybody anymore. Because you can take anybody's scalp and say that was the person you were trying to get. You chop off heads, there's no denying. When you put that head on that table, that identifies who you are. Why? Because it shows your face. Show us your face. You don't want to see my face. So, dealing with the Orient. And when they changed it, when the British changed it, and they started calling Far Asia the Far East, what do they call it? The Orient. What were they initially calling the people in those lands of China and Taiwan, and Japan, Korea, Vietnam? They were calling them Orientals. They weren't calling the people in the west part of Asia Orientals. They were calling people in the far, they call the Far East, call it the Orient, because the Orientals. Why? Again, thanks to Brother Copper Indio, the British changed the prime meridian. You don't know what the prime meridian is? It's dealing with the time. They literally changed the time on the whole world. And then it's Greenwich Village. And when they changed it, so now that's called the international timeline, international date line. And this is how I knew the world wasn't going to end when the clocks changed to 2000. Remember, the world was going to come to the end and everybody was scared because computers were going to shut down. And I was telling everybody over here when it was New Year's Eve, I said, the world's not going to end because it's already tomorrow in China. Do y'all remember that? Because I do. Oh, thank you, Brother Copper Indio. He already put it in the chat. Dealing with AM and PM and how they changed the time. One of my favorite groups of all time is Morris Day and the Time. And you say, what time is it? Don't nobody know what time it is anymore. Y'all don't know what time it is. What time is it? Woo! They said, ask you, tell me, do you know? Do you know what time it is? Tell me, do you know? Do you know what time it is? We don't know what time it is. Changing the calendar on you. Changing the time on you. Reason why they did that is because they realized, hey, if we keep the East, the Far East, the Orient with the people it belongs to, the auntie, will continue to say this is the new world, which gives them carte blanche to destroy everyone and everything in the land, whether the physical man or the man on paper. Kill the Indian, save the man. So it got you thinking this is the new world, and you had to be brought over here on slave ships, talking about this is the Western Hemisphere when this was the old land. This was the Orient. This was the land of the East. And they flipped it on you and called it the land of the West. But dudes that want to do 30 minutes of Google search want to tell you what stuff means. And again, I broke it down in medical terminology. When you have your ACL, it's called what? Anterior cruciate ligament. That ligament that's in the front. Ask any athlete. I've had 3 knee surgeries. Trust me, I know about ACLs. Posterior, the back. My grandmother used to always say, sit down on your posterior. Why? Because that's the back. That's your PM. But your AM, your AM is the dawning of a brand new day. Oh, wasn't that Sting? The Police? Oh, you don't know about that. It's again, the British invasion. I'm going off again. But I guess someone knew something that we didn't know, because an oxymoron, y'all remember this group? Actually, the son of a famous singer, but he wanted to go a different route, called PM Dawn. Oxymoron. Maybe they knew something we didn't know. PM Dawn. Understanding what was in the back, or the new world, is actually the beginning. PM Dawn, baby, you send me. Oh, y'all can look that up a little bit later. I apologize. Yeah. See, Mother Copper Indio is hitting us. All y'all are hitting it. All of y'all are hitting it. But no sellout who deals with health. Or somebody trying to say, oh, man, look, you fat boy. What are you talking about, dude? You don't know that Brother No Sellout deals with health. Somebody over there looking a little flabby down in that way. And before October hits for his famous little powwow that he want to have, maybe he need to get a little workout in. But No Sellout, he still got your number. Maybe you could call him and give him a little workout. How can you be skinny and flabby at the same time? Come on, son. How does that work? Okay, I'm gonna quit. I said I wasn't gonna do that anymore. I'm sorry. I digress. I apologize. I apologize to the chat. I apologize to those that will be listening later. I apologize to the haters as well. But hey, again, let me go back. Woo, man. And these are people with backgrounds, various backgrounds. That's why I always say again, the most intelligent chat in the cosmos. Like my grandmother said, baby, I've forgotten more than you'll ever know. Didn't Kanye say something like that in one of his rhymes? I've forgotten more than you'll ever know. So a lot of things that I'm just discussing are what things that you all have forgotten. But you're like, oh man, I forgot about that. Because I see it in the chat. Who said that? Somebody said, oh man. Oh, Just Your Love X. Same thing as Sister Gabrielle Union, Cobb, everybody in the chat has been saying things. And like, oh man, I forgot about that. That's because you respected your grandma, respected your mama. Didn't try to punch her in the face and steal a car and stay gone all day and all through the night and then come back knowing she got to go to work. Come on, man. Also says about the Orient, see origin. See origin, i.e. ancient. This is all related to dealing with East. So while he want to try to say East is just dealing with a direction. That's why they flipped it on us. Because if you think you in the new world, you think you're not as old as your granny been telling you. They think that you, oh, well, granny says that we always been here. And then you read in a book, because remember at one time, and this didn't start, if you notice, this didn't start until the late 1800s, the mid to late 1800s, when they wouldn't allow us to read. This is when all these books started being published. Now you about over here, African, African, African. Because they tell you it wasn't, nobody was talking African anything until the British. They wasn't doing all that talking about you came from Africa. They were talking about, they were sending people from Barbados up this way. That's why you got to study the Salem witch trials. And you'll find out the one that they called the witch, that said she deceived all these women, all the other wives, the European wives in Salem. You'll find out she was from Barbados, not Africa. This is how they get us. So this is what we haven't figured out. Even so much so, when they talk about all these African slave ships and owning all these African slaves in Tennessee, Ohio, Kentucky, Arkansas, how do you, all these wars, now go back and think about it. No matter what coast you were coming from, there were wars going on. How you getting slaves, 20, 30, 40 slaves, 100 slaves from the Atlantic coast, from the Gulf Coast, from the Pacific coast? How you getting them into the I call the buckle of the Bible Belt? So come on, son. You going, you got 50 slaves chained together, and you gonna walk them through, get them through, because you walking them while they riding, these other guys riding their horses from the port of New York, from the port of New Orleans, and you getting them all the way into Tennessee, Arkansas. Come on, son. Man, I can't do it. I'm sorry. Let me go back to our regular scheduled program. Again, when you're dealing with ancient, let me put that in. You're also dealing with antique. Let me put that in there. Yeah, let me do that. Antique. Oh. See, there's a difference between something being, and I've used this before, there's a difference between something being antique and something being old. An antique is classic. Something that's old, you need to get rid of it. This is why when you start seeing, when they start talking about certain civilizations, and they call them antique, and then they say pre-classica. So they saying not only, because classic mean antique, they're saying before that, pre-classical. So these people were older than that. Because when the Iberians got there to that region, and they were talking to the Inca, you've heard me say it, I said it before and I say it again, the Incas were Johnny come latelys. They were the new kids on the block as far as a people. So out of the Inca tell you, again, we didn't build this. We didn't build these structures. There were people more ancient than us that built these structures. And they called themselves Anti. And the Suyu, meaning the region or the land. I'm going to break that down. The region or the land is the Suyu. And the Suyu goes deeper than the region or the land. It means resting place. You'll see it translated into Kichimaya as Shiyu or She. The spirit or the rest, the place where the spirit can rest. And you'll look up the Andes dealing with the Antisuyu. It tells you about the spirit being in the mountains that rested there in the mountains. Goes back to what the wise one and elders were teaching. That the energy, the spirit came down and rested at this spot. That it rested in this spot. It rested in the land called, the area called Egypt today. Or Sumer originally. It rested in that spot. It rested in India. It rested in China. Which is why you see the similar builds on pyramids and structures aligning with the cosmos. Science is finally catching up to what Big Mama been telling you. So when they don't go and deal with that, it's not going to make sense. Now, when they say, oh no, they're just dealing with the East and not dealing with the rest of that, this lets you know that dudes don't travel. They go from place to place, but they really don't travel. I'll put it this way. They may travel, but they don't interact with the indigenous / Indians of the land. Because if they did, they would know simple terminology. Again, one of my elders, I appreciate you. He's transitioned on. Y'all heard me talk about him before. My French teacher, Abel Zapata. Zapat. The Saba. Saba. Sapien. Mrs. Zapata. Told you he taught French. He taught Mandarin. He taught German. He taught Spanish. And when teachers were out sick, he even came into the English classes. And when I asked him, how do you know so many languages? He looked at me because I couldn't think of a good, we had to change ourselves to French name. So I was like, just call me X, the unknown. So I was Monsieur X. He said, Monsieur X, it's not difficult when you realize that all languages were one. And when he broke that down, I said, wait a minute, my perspective on foreign languages changed. And although there's some languages, a lot of Spanish, because they speak too fast, I can't speak it, but I know what they're saying. My better half people be like, you know what that means? Like, yeah, I know what they're saying. I may not be able, I can't speak the language, but I know what they're saying. Because I realize that all language is one. But let's break it down when they say, oh no, this don't deal with, it just means East. So now let's get to what Big Mama. Oh man, my laptop about to go dead when I want to do it. I gotta find my plug. Y'all stay tuned. I wanna go to what Big Mama said. What did Big Mama say? Big Mama would always get up at the rising of the sun to go get the eggs from the chickens and feed the pigs and get breakfast going. Big Mama didn't need an alarm clock. She got up with the sun. Just like I do now. I set my alarm clock, but I am up hours before it goes off. Why? Because I understand about the sun and the rising of the sun. Oh, wait a minute. My laptop. Oh, there we go. Scared me there for a minute. Didn't think it was charging. So we're going to get into, again, the East and what all of this means, because I don't want to catch anybody slipping. And I don't want to go too fast because I don't want anyone to say he doesn't know what he's talking about. Man, it's not moving. So, dealing with the East and all that it encompasses deals with the rising of the sun, facing the sun. Remember your granny used to say, "Oh, if you're not feeling well," she said, "Go outside, baby, and get in that sun. Get that vitamin D. That sun will make you feel better. Open up your pores. Go outside." So now, going outside and understanding about the East, when you face the East, you're in the sun, you're in the morning sun. When other people see you, you have a glow about you when you've been in the sun. It's a different glow than if you're in light, in artificial light, than when you're in natural light. Someone made a joke about natural light, and that's all that they drink. I remember that. Oh man, shout out to the person that said that. I'm not gonna put that person on the spot. But when you're in the natural light of the sun, there's a glow about you. There's an aura about you. Remember that Rick James aura that Charlie Murphy was talking about? He had that orange glow about him. Give it to me, baby. So you have a glow about you, which is why you would always see that halo on the one that they call Jesus the Christ, Jesus the Cristo. This is where it gets back to in the sun. Even when you're dealing with the Mayan calendar, that Mayan calendar is the man in the sun, the man with the glowing face of the sun, the ancient one, or you hear them say the ancient of days. So when you are the first, or the first ones to rise, which they claim now of Homo sapien, Saba, the upright ones, the righteous ones, the auntie, you have a glow about you. Which is why when you go down into Latin America, Mesoamerica, the Caribbean, you'll use a phrase and they call you Indios. Indios. And when you say Indios, it's much different than those if you say native. When you say Indios, they'll tell you that it's the ancient people. They still live up in the mountains. And they flip that term Indios to be derogatory. Just like the word, now because some people have their children listen, I'm not going to say it because people will try to flag it. Just like some people say the N word today. It didn't mean that in the beginning. It got flipped and became a derogatory statement. And when you try to argue with your own people today, they will argue you down and say that's not the truth. Just like we have been told that Indian was a derogatory statement. No, because that's what we called ourselves. That's why I go back again to when Pan-Africanists kept saying, "Oh, let's Choctaw Jimmy. That's Choctaw Jimmy." You're not offending me at all. Why? The reason why you're not offending me is because I know, without a shadow of a doubt, you're calling me by my name. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Oh, now it's updating. I apologize, you all. So I understand that. So when you call people by their name, that gives them that authority. So by this authority, when they say, "Oh, you're no longer that," it's derogatory. Yeah, Indian is derogatory to Native Americans. Native American just means you were born in this land. Doesn't mean you're the original people of this land. Doesn't mean you're the Orientals of this land. Doesn't mean that you're the ancient ones of this land. Doesn't mean that you're the auntie of this land. So The only ones that are having problems with us saying that we're American Indians, which is who we are those that aren't. The only ones having problems with us saying we're American Indians are Native Americans and foreigners. Nobody else. So if you're screaming to the top of your lungs, because you can't go down into Mesoamerica, South America, the Caribbean, talking about Aborigines. They're going to look at you like, what? What? But when you say Indios, now they're going to look at you and say, you're speaking my language. Again, as I said before, when you say Mateo, now you're speaking my language. So we've got to continue to have these discussions, because if not, it's going to mess people up. Now, I'm going to put her on the spot and she's going to be mad at me, but I'm going to ask my better half. What is sun in Spanish or in Latin? What is soul? Dealing with the soul, right? What is God in Spanish?
Dios.
Dios. I hope y'all heard that. Dealing with the soul and Dios. 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 In Dios. Now we're gonna keep it real. We're gonna keep it real fresh. In Dios. See, people are thinking, they say, oh, because it comes from the Latin. And again, someone tried to say, no, before. When I broke down and said Ladino is Latin, because you're going to find out again that at least 85% of the words that you thought was ancient, what they call ancient Latin from Europe, were actually words that are used over here. Even breaking down one of the words that every city has, every township has, municipality has, is whether you call it a commission or a council. But the one that's sitting at the head is called the mayor. Uh-oh. Now let me break down. You got mayor. Let me put it in. Mayor. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's your Latin. So-called Latin, which they're going to tell you it's Maya. And then the Maya are going to tell you it's pre-Maya. There were people here before us. And we just kept their customs and culture going. And some of us have their blood flowing through us. That's if you're talking to a real Don. A real chiclera, which means ones that talks a lot. It just doesn't translate well, but it means one who talks a lot. So I guess I'm a chiclero. I'm a man that talks a lot, that has a lot to say. Because I know I've been going on for a little bit, but I'm going on for a little bit longer because I don't want to lose people. And you hear colonizers say this all the time. You people have so much soul. I love going to your places of worship because you sing with such soulfulness. James Brown, the godfather of soul. In the 70s, late 60s and 70s, said, "What's up, soul brother?" I don't remember that. Maybe y'all need to go watch Undercover Brother to remind you of the sayings that we used to have back in the day. What's up, soul brother number one? Give me 5 on the black hand side. Y'all remember that? So I say we used to say things and do things that we didn't understand, but it was passing certain things down So our ancestors could say, hey, this is going to trigger something. This is going to make sense to you. So now we know that the sun deals with soul. The sun in the sense of God, the deity of what I just put God. I know people are like, oh no, this German word. I'm not getting into that. I'm saying the sense of the source, the one, the creator is called Dios. Dios. Now y'all gonna get it here in a minute. And when you used to go to people speaking Spanish and they would say adios, but now they say adios is an insult. Why are they doing that? I don't understand. I'll tell you why. Because adios just doesn't mean goodbye. It means to God, I bid you farewell. Translated to Spanish, another Latin word, still French and Spanish, or kissing cousins. Latin gets you back to Ladino, and they still don't want to talk about it, still try to say, oh no, you don't know what you're talking about. But the first people that Christopher Columbus ran into were Taino. Taino. Let me spell out Taino for you. Let me do this for you. Let me do it. T-A-I-N-O. Now we're going to do something like Latino. What? See, that's how they, like I said, you have to understand when colonizers try to confuse you, because then in the early 80s, shout out to Gabe Iglesias. Y'all need to, if y'all on Netflix, y'all need to watch his show, because he started breaking down. They were talking about these terminologies. Because back in the day, because I'm old enough, when we went to school, we had to take those tests and bubble in those sheets. You only had two choices on race. It was white and black. There was nothing else. Then he says, I knew that I wasn't Afro-American, which don't deal with African-American. He said, but I knew I wasn't black, so I checked white. And this is why you got those that are still checking white today. And you literally like, you know you're not white. Come on, son. You know you ain't come from no Europe. Come on, son. And we'll have some of them thinking they better than us, knowing our blood is flowing through their veins and their blood is flowing through our veins. But that's another subject for another time. Then he goes on and says, yes, and then they turn around and they told us, oh, well, you're Hispanic. And this happened in the 80s under Rapping Ron Reagan. They gave them the category of Hispanic. Because now it still has like, oh, you such and such, you non-Hispanic, you this and that, but you're Hispanic, which they knew was not a race or a category or a culture or ethnicity. It's not. So then he was talking about, because it gets back to what they want to be called Latinx, which, man, that's crazy. But then when it says, we all decided, he said, all of the nations, said, whether you were in Mexico, the Caribbean, South America, he started naming all the countries that, Ecuador. He said, we all decided that we are Latin. Why? Because it gets back to Taino. Taino is a subgroup of the Caribbean, which is why when you go into mainland South America, you go to the Yucatan, if you go to Guatemala, you go to Belize, they all say they are Carib. They all say, you're like, wait a minute, you're not in the islands? You're not in the islands? Why are you not in the islands? So, I was going, but Brother David Court, if I break that down, it's going to be another time. But no, Sally, you done hit it. Adios meals. They say that I had a young lady on my track team. Every time I would push her to the limit because it was hot. She, adios meals, coach, adios meals. Adios meal. Oh my God. I know. I'm running it all together like she was doing. Yeah, I'm sorry. My better half is over here trying to correct me on my Spanish. But they run it all together. Why do they run it all together? Because when you speak to a true Maya, they run their words all together. Because if you try to record it and then put it in that machine to translate, it won't do right. Sit around, listen to my better half people. They talk. I'm like, well, that's not a word. because they run it all together, just like we do. I'm finna go to the store. What they say in Louisiana? I'm making some groceries. I'm finna go to the store. Finna go to the store and make some groceries. So when they talking about that, they're not getting it. And again, in French, adios is adieu. And if you remember the scene from Django, before the guy shot, Monsieur Candy, and he looked at him, he did his beard when he was trying to get him to sign to get the cake, and he's like, no, he's like, sit down. And he said, I wonder what Alexander Dumas would think of that. And he said, yeah, what are you thinking of that? He said, Alexander Dumas was black. He said, I would bid you adieu, but I do not wish to see you again. Taking the words out of my mouth. Y'all remember that scene? I would bid you adieu, but I do not wish to see you again. Saying, I'm not going to say God be with you. I don't know about y'all, but I know growing up, because you grew up in places, especially in the Baptist church. When we used to end, we all had to hold hands and sing a song before the benediction. And it was God be with you, until we meet again. And we raised our hands up and saying blah, blah, blah. And he said the benediction, and he said, amen. And then church was out. They were saying, God be with you. Adios. God be with you. Adieu. God be with you. And when they came across these people and they said auntie, and they were calling them, and then it gets back to Indians, because meaning the ancient ones, saying that they were kissed by the sun. Heard that saying before? You've been kissed by the sun, you've been kissed by God. Or what you read in that book of beginnings is called the book of Genesis, where it said God breathed life into them. How do you breathe life into somebody? They say don't do that anymore. But when you're doing CPR, the old school way, what do you used to do? You do those chest compressions and you do what? You blow into them. You're breathing your life into them. You're literally kissing them. Somebody still with me. Somebody gonna be with me here in a minute. That it says here, is tu, Dios, meaning God, in the form of the light, the sun, to be kissed by the sun, having plenty of sunlight. The sun-kissed shores of the Caribbean. A person's skin having an attractive color because you have been in the sun-kissed, faces a sun-kissed glow. Which is why when colonizers go out and try to get a tan and they come back, heard him again, shout out to Gabe Iglesias, but they do, shout out to Wanda Sykes, because she did this last, like I said, I've been watching Netflix and chill since everybody was shooting firecrackers and couldn't go live. When white people, those that classify themselves as white, colonizers, Europeans, would come up after they've been in the sun, they've gone down to the Caribbean, they've gone down into Mexico, or they just been outside, and they'll take their forearm and put it right up against your forearm and say, almost there. I'm almost there. Huh? They saying they've been kissed by the sun a little bit, but we are constantly and permanently kissed by the sun. Unless some of y'all in here trying to be what's his name on Boondocks with his revitiligo, trying to bleach himself because he got revitiligo. Almost there. I'm almost there. I'm almost like you. I want to show you I've been kissed by the sun. But it's only temporary for them. Doesn't last. I hope somebody is following me. You can't sit here and talk about things on the surface and done no research. Again, prior to this conversation, showed a video of the people in the land. They were interviewing people and asked about uh, indios. And the lady that was working in the bar, she was like, and she did that little face like that little boy did about niggas. She did that face like, oh, no, no, that's a word that don't, it's a derogatory term because it's been flipped. And she said the word indios is racist. And she said there are people that don't come into the city. They stay to themselves. They're up in the mountains. Those are the indios. Because we have been taught that the people of this land, the original people of this land, original gets back to east. Origin, orient, first, says they're savages. Then all of a sudden, that's when it started flipping. Oh, they're savages, and they're cannibals, and they kill themselves. Nope. Nope. When you start looking, again, I said this before, it's public execution. When battles were gone, they would take them up to the plateau of the pyramid, lay them out, and sacrifice in a sense of public execution because they had done evil before the sight of God. But these are the same savages that talk about Abraham took his son, his only son. Remember? Nobody? Huh? Anybody remember that? Isaac? Anybody remember that? Even though he had another son? And said the Lord told him to sacrifice his son. And then there was a ram in the bush that he sacrificed. See how they use the things that they call us being savages for. But today, being their day of worship, they're in there learning about these same stories. And they gloss right over it and didn't see anything wrong with it. But we're still taking people to the chair today. Here in Texas, we still laying people out on the table and injecting them. I had a classmate that was publicly executed down there in Huntsville, Texas. But see, they don't want to tell you that part. They want to tell you we eating each other. What sense does that make when we're dealing with crops? Come on, son. We're literally feeding the whole world. Chocolate is all over the world because of the Americas. Maize, corn, all over the world because of the Americas. Sweet potatoes, yam, oh, yam. Regular potatoes that they call Irish potatoes. And they really chop potatoes. So you got people talking reckless and they don't know what they're talking about. You got people claiming to be scholars and they don't know what they're talking about. You got people claiming to be teachers and they don't know what they're talking about. Who are you teaching? How are you teaching? What have you learned? Who taught you? Oh my goodness. Like I say, I can go down the line and start naming all of the elders that have taught me. Professor Clement Glenn, who was he was the dean of English studies at Prairie View A&M, down there just outside of Houston, Texas. He's transitioned. One of my elders, breaking things down. I already told you about one of the transition on, Abel Zapata. I'm naming the elders that taught me. You don't hear these dudes talking about the elders. Who did you learn from, dude? You walking around talking about you got smoke and fire and you blowing your fingers off like John Pierre Paul did. Now he always holding up the Gig'em sign like he went to Texas A&M because he only got 2 fingers left. Come on, son. You blowing your fingers off because you want to talk. Hey, you like the firecracker, and you throw it before it pops because it is, that's a compound word, right? Let's do the first word, fire, okay? Meaning flammable. Cracker. Not dealing with the person that y'all named that George Jefferson was using and all the rest of that stuff. We're talking about cracker, crack as to break up. So when the fire breaks up, it's going to explode. Throw it before it explodes. Don't throw it at anyone. But you got people out here that are lighting firecrackers, blowing themselves up, throwing it at other people, blowing them up, getting them all riled up for no reason. You can't talk to them. Remember I told you about the fact of when you deal with fatherless children, they have no conflict resolution skills. They'll ask you a question, and before you can answer the question, they're coming back with a response. I'll give you an example. Our youngest one, I sit there sometimes, I'm in the room. Her mom would tell her to do something, and she's and I come out and say, hey. Or sometimes I don't even have to, I just say hey from in the room. She goes on and does what her mom tells her to do. Or I just stick my head out the door. Don't even say anything, just look at her. Does what her mom tells her to do. You got dudes on these YouTube channels that have no male authority figure in their life, no elder that they're talking to, and they're buck wild. And you can't tell them anything. They're right about everything. They've never been wrong. That's why I started out again, because I understand I have elders and can still reach out to them. Those that are still here and haven't transitioned. I still hear their words. I still hear my grandmother. I still hear my mother. I still hear my grandfathers. I still hear my father. That's why starting out, I apologize for the drama that I brought to this community, which really wasn't drama. It was me defending myself and those that were also telling the truth that they were trying to slander. But no one had a problem with that. No one had a problem with that. So I'm sitting here and I'm saying, you're attacking this person. You're attacking that person. You're saying, oh, they're agents. Oh, they the police. Oh, they this and that. They here to report people. But it's amazing. The people that are doing what is right have relayed the information for people to be able to feed their families in real time. Why we got so many formers in this camp that didn't start forming until this year? That just started. They really didn't know what they were doing because they're like, man, I didn't sit up there and got time to be forming. And then realize, wait a minute, oh, I can get funding to learn how to form. I can get funding to get my seeds, my crops, my equipment. There are people, and they talk about correct status. Just the fact that you know yourself as an American Indian. Then sit up there and say, oh, well, Doodoo, you don't have no connection to the White House. I've been having connection to the White House since not just this president, the president before. Why? Because I know who I was, and I understood that when you're dealing with public and Indian, public and Indian, public and Indian, public and Indian housing, that housing has much more to do than just 4 walls and a roof. It deals with the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So when someone sits here and says, as an American Indian, you don't know what you're talking about, but I get the calls, I get the emails, I get the alerts, I get the text messages say, hey, we want you to serve on here to end police brutality. Let's change these policies. And dudes got a problem with that. So you'd rather me be on YouTube doing 12, 24-hour streams than to fall back on YouTube for a little bit and actually sit at the table, because I've been invited to the table to have a conversations to stop your little cousin Ray Ray from getting choked out, and it's live streaming all over the world. So what is going to make a difference? Me sitting at the table and having these discussions that would have never been brought up had I not been at the table? Or me getting on YouTube crying about somebody else died in the hands of the police? That's why I said, Cobb, every Wednesday, I sent Brother A1 the screenshots of the email, and then I said, let me know, get at me. I'll send you the link. Before this funding is released, before you see it on CNN, before you see it on MSNBC, Fox, and all the rest of them, ABC News, and they tell us during the call, don't share this information with the public until you get the notification saying you can. Why? Because it may get in the wrong hands and someone flip it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm in total agreement with the person that's in the White House, but I can say, because your actions are speaking so loud I can't hear what you're saying. He's saying one thing, but his actions in the form of the funding is coming to us. Now I want someone to be able to explain that to me in the form of opportunity zones, in the form of HBCUs getting funded like never before. I want someone to explain to me, because here's the deal with me. I could care less whether he does an executive order to keep Confederate statues up or not. Because our deal is, let's get the funding together and put our American Indian statues right beside them. So keep your statues. Keep them all day long. And when people say, oh, the Confederate flag, I break down the tribes that use the Confederate flag. These were American Indian tribes. Confederate flag didn't come to what we know as a Confederate flag today, didn't come to being representing the Confederate flag, the battle flag, until March of 1865. Not even a month. Because, again, in April of 1865, the Civil War was over. And then, here's how they do it. Y'all gonna say, where is he going with this? The same way they took the Chickamauga and all those that were part of the Washita Confederacy that were using that flag, and they flipped it in the 1940s and made it a sign of white supremacy, white power. The same way they tell you, I'm not going to say, I'm going to keep it rated G, the N-word is derogatory. Garnagu. Don't call me that. Don't call me that N-word. It's offensive to me. I'll punch you in the face. It's the same way they took Indian and now say it's a derogatory statement. Don't call me that. All day long call me that. Why? Because it ties me back to being with the Auntie, Andes, Andean, American Indian. Ties back to the same thing. The people of the East, the Orient, the original, first. So when you talk about I'm dealing with the First Nation, I'm the First Nation, the First Nation, I'm the first. Why do you think those Native Americans were so eager to be called First Nations? Do you know what First Nations mean when you're claiming to be part of, talking about you the First Nation now? Done took your name and stripped you of your birthright. Matter of fact, you gave it away, and you looking at them and say, that don't have nothing to do with me. That don't have nothing to do with me. They slapped you in the face and called it a kiss, and you loved it. What was Spike Lee? What were they doing in school days? That fraternity was spanking them. I want some more. Give me some more. Make my punk to be funk. I want to get funked up. Y'all remember that when he was smacking them with that paddle? Huh? To get into that fraternity? You get smacked. You let people beat on you. You let people jump you into a game. Talking about they love you after they done jumped you in. I wish you would. You gonna beat me up, talk about you love me. That's the ultimate sign of domestic violence. But we cool with that. We cool with that. Dudes dying at HBCUs getting hazed to get put in a fraternity. And they were covering up, hiding it up. The guy down there at Prairie View, he's a band member, died and they threw him on the bus and left him on the bus. And the band left him on the bus and the young man was dead. Come on, son. Stop domestic violence. Want to jump somebody in and then want to try to beat somebody up and abuse somebody verbally. And oh man, anybody to come dealing with this. Last time I talked, every man, like my grandma say, every tub got to sit on its own bottom, baby. A man defending another man. Come on, son. Let that man speak for himself. That gang mentality. And somebody speaks up and say, hey, stop banging on that female. Stop banging on that woman. Stop banging on that lady. Then you get mad. Then everybody will come and jump in and say, come on, man. That's that gang. That's that same street mentality. No honor. None. So I have someone sitting up there, they claiming, he talking about he Chata. Oh, what did they call themselves originally? And I said, when they got here, they were telling them they were Chata. As you know, as the Muskogee peoples, but they all break it down and say the Chata being the language, but they tell you about the Washita, the Washi, the Washa, and they tell you they all part of the same people. They even broke it down on Cab Grant. There were so many shows, live streams, I can't even break them all down. Just start from the first one. Just start from the first Cab Grand Rising show and start backwards. Start at the oldest one and work your way up to current. Matter of fact, you don't even have to get into 2020 live stream. You just stay in 2019. Just do all 2019. And we've already covered all this. But like I said before, when the people that are telling the truth and giving you truth on how to help you in real time, when you're blocked, oh, I'm blocking. Oh, this is my channel. Hey, if I knew it was your channel, I'll never come on there. I didn't know that was one of your channel. I didn't know these were your children. I wouldn't come on to the channels. But your children keep inviting me. Why do you tell your children to stop inviting me over? Tell them to stop inviting me over. I'm like, the vampires will be like, oh, we can't come in until we're invited in. Hey, I will not dawn your threshold. I won't enter your place unless I'm invited. So I hope that we cleared that up. And I still got so much more on dealing with Indian. So much more. All types of books and articles and links and everything else. Oh man, I got to do this one before I wrap it up. I'm gonna be done. I know I've been on a long time. Here's what they don't tell you. Everyone keeps arguing, right? They keep arguing over these old heads. And some people keep saying China, they native and all the rest of this. And that's why I said the connection. Because I go back to what was stated before. In Aboriginal Power, I'm saying your name specifically because this is your field of expertise. This is what you said. This is your area of scholarship and getting that work. If you say, we built the pyramids, then you have to go by what the people call themselves, not what outsiders call them. What did we, if we built the pyramids, what did we call ourselves? Again, if we were called auntie, you can only go by what you've been given. Even speaking of auntie, go back and look at your auntie or your auntie. What do you call your daddy's sister or your mama's sister? Look up the origin of that. It's going to bring you right back to auntie. Right back where you started from. Now, everyone's been arguing about, oh, these Olmec heads and where these people come from. And you got Pan-Africanists, oh, it came from Africa. And you got other Pan-Africanists saying, oh, it came from China, came from Asia. Well, no. I'm going to give you the link. Matter of fact, let me type this in. It's gonna be long. I'm sorry. I'm gonna give you the link in the chat because I want you all to see. And which I've been knowing this for years. But like I said, I just sit back and wait. Sit back and chill. Oh, let me put that in there because I got to type it in long way. S /CCMA. And this is coming from Stanford University. This is one of the highest level of educations that you can get from any institution here in the Americas. So this is dealing with Stanford. Oh man. Shout out to Colin Kaepernick, graduate of Stanford. When people try to say he was ignorant and dumb and all the rest of that stuff. But hey, what do I know? Okay. / This is going to get real good. I want to make sure I got this in here right. Y'all let me know if it doesn't come up correctly. .html. All right. If it doesn't show up for you all, yep, I was gonna say, yep, Richard Sherman. I was gonna say him too. That's why they try to play them like they're idiots, but they're some of the most intelligent American Indians on this, not only on this, in this hemisphere, on this planet. Richard Sherman is sharp. Why? Stanford. Oh man. So that's from Stanford. It is going to show you where these Olmec heads, the first Olmec heads in Peru. Y'all better pull out some Exhibit C, J Electronica. What'd he tell you? Like he grew up in a shrine in Peru? When you talking about the way he rhymes? Dip diver. Y'all better go back and listen to Exhibit C again when he tell you about those shrines in Peru and why the elders and wise ones in Peru are getting with the dons and the elders and the wise ones of Mesoamerica. Why do they continue to have this Crystal Skull Conference? Because they know we were one. One nation under a groove, getting down just for the funk of it. Shout out to George Clinton, not to be confused with Bill Clinton. Or should I say the newest cowboy, Clinton Dix. So anyway, I go back to what I was saying before. I wanted to get that link out to let you know the Olmec head started in Peru. But see, you're not going to hear that because that'll end and it will put all heads to bed talking about West African. It'll put all heads to bed talking about China. When the elders and wise ones were telling you about the Trois Anti-Suyu, the four corners, the Anti, the ancient ones, and how they took those four corners and spread out to the four corners of the earth. And Brother Copper Indio, again, the Grudge, was telling you the two places that you will find jade and it is most valuable is China. Oh, but let me go on back over to the other part. Mesoamerica, specifically Belize, Guatemala. And they will tell you, like I said, if you're really speaking to a true Maya that's there, and they will tell you, you and the Americas are my brothers. Oh, I did a video of a guy talking about that. When they were trying to unite. They call it the PUP party. I don't know why they gave it PUP, but that's what it is. In Guatemala, in Belize, and telling them the Mexica. That's why they keep battling with the Republic of Mexico. Keep battling with the Mexicas, because they're telling the Mexicas, this is not your land. Mexicas, Mexicans, it's not your land. That's why you got to be careful. Again, shout out to Gabe Iglesias. When he said, oh, the Mexicans, and he said, my friend said, we're not Mexican, we're Chicano, man. We're not Mexicans. Anybody that's telling you they're Mexican, they're telling you they're Hispanic, which is they're telling you that they're paying homage to their daddy in Spain and Portugal. They are little Spanish. That's what Hispanic means. So anyone telling you I'm Mexica, yeah, that means you are that mixed group. So which are you claiming, dude? Are you claiming that you from this land and who you are? Or are you Hispanic? Are you Mexica? Are you Mestizo? Are you a Melungeon? It's not working. Okay, what I'll do is I will put it in the I will put it in the I don't know why it didn't work, but I'll put it in the it says it can't be reached by the link that I put in there. So what I'll do is I will, after this is over, I will put it in the comment section, and I will also put it in the back chat. So if Cobb, any one of you all could share it on the Autonomous Assembly website, please, by all means, I'll drop all those links in there, because I don't want to have any information that no one else has. So you'll start to see those jaguars, those black jaguars. You'll start to see the Olmec heads. You'll start to see the symbols of the Puni, aka the Phoenix. You'll start to see all of that originally in Peru. And they have this stuff. And then they have it dealing in Stanford. They have it at these universities. So I'm not even saying to attend these universities. I'm saying go to the museums, because you have public access to that museum. So I tell anyone that's here in Dallas, go to SMU campus off of 75 in Mockingbird, and that's what's called the Meadows Museum. That's on the SMU campus. They have the original logs of Christopher Columbus and his son, and describing the people, which goes back again. I can break it down. Why did he call us the people that have been kissed by the sun, the people of the East? He knew he wasn't no cotton picking India, because India didn't exist at the time. So you got dudes on here reading stuff talking about India when India didn't exist. And why did they rename it India? Because they started, when they were over in America, they started realizing, hey, these same monuments and design, look at the doorway designs in what's called India today. They're the same doorway designs that you will find in Peru, all throughout Brazil, all throughout Chile. Oh, I didn't get into that. Chile beans, chili peppers. Oh, that's a Mayan word. That's a Ladino word. All these words that we're talking about. Sorry about that. My earpiece came out. So again, when I kept mentioning again about agriculture, horticulture, people don't want to get into that conversation because when you start looking at the names of these plants and herbs and crops, fruit, all of this stuff, animals, you'll start to see, wait a minute, this stuff originates over here. Pine cone. This stuff originates over here. How did it get over there? Prior to colonization. Nobody's asking those questions. Because again, going back to the British, the English, when they changed the prime meridian, they changed the time on you. When they flipped it, the colonizers flipped it to the Gregorian calendar, they changed the dates on you. And you wondering why you walking around here in a drunken stupor. Trying to do things to get your mind off of what's going on because you're not paying attention to the signs of the time. So then you popping in mentally, you want to put in Bobby Brown. I gotta get away. I gotta get away. I gotta get away. Because now you're trying to get away. And when those of us that are coming to tell you this is where you start, this is a remedy, not the only way, but a way. And those that keep taking you further and further and further away from what grandma said, get you further and further and further away from your roots. You know where they do that at? When you join a cult. Look at these religious cults, and all the rest of satanic cults. That is exactly what they do. That's exactly what they do. They do that when they get into a cult. Yes, sir. The original elephant, the mammoths that they laugh about, again, in the caverns in Central Texas. How do those paintings of mammoths and men on mammoths, how those drawings get in those caves in Central Texas? And definitely want to get into the camel. The camel, you won't see a camel over here outside of the zoo or some type of reservation. But camels originated over here in the Americas. How did those camels get into what we call the Middle East today? Why is it called the Middle East? It's called the Middle East in relation to England. Jolly old England. The British invasion. So you got the Middle East. Then you got the Far East in relation to England because they saying we are prime. Child, they flipped it on you. Go back and watch Transformers again. Watch all of them. And it gets back to, remember Optimus Prime? Had no recollection of who he was. So then he had to leave this planet to go get answers. Watch the movie series of Transformers again. Like they're saying, such can be done without a prime. But the prime can do all these things, but he can't walk in his fullness until he know who he is. Go back and watch all that again. And they tell you, when he had to go up into space, I got to find out, I need to go get some answers. I need to find out who I am. I'm leading people, but I don't know who I am. I got to go back and find out who I am. Go talk to your mama. If you don't like your mama, go talk to your granny. That's why I always say again. Because you sit down, and that's why sometimes, when you were little and your mama drop you off with your granny, she go in, hey, mom, and then drop you off real quick so she can go out or whatever. She and your daddy or whoever can go out. Because the granny going to tell you, go over there, stop treating that baby like that. You used to do the same thing when you were little. Now your mama's embarrassed. Because your grandma done told you. Your big mama done told you. Hmm? How your mama used to act. Your mama whooping your butt for something things she used to do. And your grand like, don't whoop that boy. You know you was doing the same thing. Hmm? Y'all don't remember that? And your mama will skedaddle out of her. Okay, see you later, mom. I love you. Bye. I'll be back later. And then your granny said, come here, baby. Come here, baby. Don't worry about it. Need to keep doing all that fake crying crocodile tears so she can fix your favorite food, get you some ice cream. Mm? Y'all remember that? No? Nobody? Just me? Okay. Man, I got so much more information. I didn't even get into the Christopher Columbus part. Man, I don't want to make this too long, so I'm going to end it. So I'm going to come back a little bit later or maybe tomorrow, and we're going to break down why Christopher Columbus called us what was translated as Indians, and when they told you to lie, writing it in the books, when it was illegal for us to read, talking about, oh, he thought he was in India. Again, when the country known as India didn't exist. Did not exist. So how are you calling the people thinking you in a land that doesn't exist? Come on, son. Where's the Mad Hatter? But no, sell out now. We're talking about that earlier. About man, this is Alice in Wonderland. Come on, son. Where's the Mad Hatter? Where's the Queen of Hearts? Off with their heads. Hmm? Come on, son. Come on, son. Where's the Mad Hatter? Come out wherever you are. Huh? This Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. No place like home. And all you do is click your heels. That's all she got to do. Click her heels 3 times. Hmm? You living in Bizarro land. You in Oz. The man behind the curtain. Little Toto, a dog. Pull back there. And don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. He's not real. And you looking at the big screen and, oh, Oz, look at the wonderful Oz in his head. Big head. Got the big head. I'm the greatest of all time. But don't pay attention to the man flipping the switches back there behind the curtain. He's lying to you. Yeah. Oh, the curtain. And you find out it's all an illusion. The man pulling those levers behind the curtain. Hmm? Yeah. You finding out. The Wizard of Oz, he wasn't all powerful. He was just a man. A man? Just like everybody else. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtains. I'm the God. I'm God. Don't pay attention. But what are you creating? What are you procreating? What are you doing? No, don't pay attention. I'm the great and mighty Oz. Come on, son. Come on, son. Where do they do that? Where do you get the audacity to, I want to block people, and that makes me feel better than everyone else. I am mightier than you because I blocked you. Wow. You're not blocking the information. On her, oh, I'm putting in work on her. I'm putting in work on her. No one has come back and said, yeah, from your teachings, I was able to do, or what you showed me, I was able to do, blah, blah, blah. But I can say, people that will be at the No Grandma Killers tour next week, I can say they have people that don't even come online, don't even watch YouTube. You can ask them, get emails on the regular. Cobb, don't you get those emails all the time? Saying, oh, I found out, I ran across you on blah, blah, blah about getting information on farming, on how to get land. People are coming literally in real time on the live streams. Hey, I just got approved for this SBA grant. In real time. When are we going to get those results from the other side? When are we going to get those responses from the other team? When are we going to get those replies from the opposition? Somebody tell me. Somebody please tell me. I want to know. Phone line still open. Cobb, Grand Rising Show, A2. One of the ones that I can say, you know what, due to COVID-19, earlier when I got up, had to call one of my financial institutions because something wasn't right. And they said, oh, that department is not open. We changed our hours due to COVID-19. Didn't send out an alert, an email or anything. But Cobb, everyone on Cobb, does that phone line still work to the Zoom? Did you all change your hours due to COVID-19? I know it's been a while. I know I've been in there just a little bit every now and then because, you know, doing stuff. So did the hours on that call change due to COVID-19? Because I didn't get the alert. I know I pop in there even in the middle of the night, in the wee hours. It's still open. I just click on it just to see. I'm like, man, I don't have anything else to do. Maybe Sister Gabrielle Union is over there still drilling and making boxes and hammering and sawing and cutting down trees like she's Paul Bunyan. Got a flannel shirt on like the dude on the brawny paper towels. I'm sorry, Sister Gabrielle Union. I had to do that. Okay, I'm gonna quit, man. Like my grandmother said, my tickle box done turned over. All I can say is I will be back either today or tomorrow because I still want to get into Christopher Columbus and why he used the term Indios, Indian, to define who we were. Partly because, hey, again, we already called ourselves that. Those from the East, Ishtar. Didn't even get into the Freemason part of it. Because what are the women called? The women that belong in that association. I'm gonna ask that question and I'll wait for somebody to put it. What were the women of the Association of the Masons called? What the women call themselves? What they still call themselves today? What they call themselves? Somebody help me. Somebody put in the chat, please. So we can go ahead and end this and everybody can get their day going and get some lunch, get some grub. Oh, snap. Brother David Corey, you get the prize. Eastern Star. I got a secret. I got a secret. Huh? Who you sing that song talking about secret? What a new edition. Did you get it yet? Did you get it yet? It's my secret. You get it yet? Did you get it yet? Did you get it yet? You gotta see how it all connects, those Eastern Stars. Why are they called Eastern Stars? Because they tell you we're the first. We're the bright and morning star. What they tell you about that Venus? I'm your Venus. I'm your fire, love, desire. Anybody remember that song? Nobody remember the 80s? I'm sorry. Maybe I'm telling my age. I don't remember that song. I'm your Venus. I'm your Venus. Y'all remember that? Who sang that song? Man, I gotta go. I've been talking too much. Hey, that's what I want y'all to do. Again, shout out. Let me do this while I go, because I don't want to miss anybody. I want to say, again, shout out to Kyle. Once again, he unmuted himself. Shout out to Brother No Sellout, Brother David Corey, Sister Pamela Hall Pass, Sister Afro Rican, Brother David Corey, Brother Copper Indio. Who else am I missing here? I want to miss anybody. To Indigo Arts and Media. I want to say, I don't want to miss anybody. I want to see drop 10:30, and like I say, yeah, I will once this uploads, I will put those links. I'll put them in the back chat, but then I'll also put them in the description box when we're done, because I want y'all to get that link. else am I want to make sure I'm missing. And see here. I don't want to miss anybody. Shout out to Sister Gabrielle Union. Like I say over there, being Paul Bunyan today. Shout out to my main man, Macadon One. Shout out to you, man. Let's see who else. I don't make sure I don't miss anybody. If I miss anybody, again, charge it to my head and not my heart. So I'm not gonna say adieu, just that. But I will say, yeah, I'll say adieu until we meet again. Adios until we meet again here shortly. Like I said, it'll be later on this evening or tomorrow because I want to give you all enough time to digest this and I want to get those links to you. Especially the last one that I just dropped in there. I'll just make sure you get that link. But y'all take care of yourselves and each other. I'm out.